Hello, Sam here with our upcoming releases. Next episode, we'll be continuing our journey into the 2015 Star Wars ongoing series with Star Wars Volume 2, Showdown on the Smuggler's Moon, and Darth Vader Volume 2, Shadows and Secrets. In the following episode, we'll be continuing our journey with Grand Admiral Thrawn with 2018's Thrawn Alliances by Timothy Zahn. Enjoy the show.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
Bum, 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 bum.
So, it's the Clone Wars, right? Mandalore has been caught up in all that bullshit, okay? So Ahsoka Tano goes to Mandalore, brings Captain Rex with her, and Darth Maul also goes to Mandalore. And Ahsoka and Captain Rex, they say, hey, let's go catch Darth Maul, right? So they have a big fight. Darth Maul says some Kylo Ren shit to her. Kind of cool. But he gets his ass kicked. And it's kind of cringe. And then he gets put in a pod. Very sad about it. He's imprisoned in the pod, and everyone's like, "Yay! We think we've won the siege of Mandalore. It's all good." And then Order 66 happens, which is very, very bad for everyone. And Rex turns on Ahsoka, and everyone cries about it because it's not great. And they have a little fight, but I don't think Ahsoka. He doesn't end up dying. I think Ahsoka just kind of like knocks him out. I can't remember what exactly happened there, but that's the thing that happened. And also, Maul gets out of his little pod and he runs off, and Ahsoka feels very, very bad about it. But Bo-Katan's in charge, and technically they won, but Palpatine is really the only one that won.
Hello and welcome to Crashing The Starfighter, the Star Wars Book Club podcast, which is working brick by brick today because I'm going through a Lego phase. I'm Sam and I've read the Ahsoka novel.
I'm Emily. I've not read the Ahsoka novel.
And that was Emily's lovely recollection of what happened during the Siege of Mandalore arc of Clone Wars, because like other books, this one does not have a crawl.
It does not. How did I do?
You did pretty well, but
No.
part of the theme of today's episode is not going to be quite sure what happened on Mandalore, so that plays into it.
Whoa. Okay.
Call
No,
me
I liked it.
Palpatine, because I have a plan. Last time, I asked you a question at the end of the episode.
Okay.
The question was, how did Ahsoka get her white lightsabers?
Okay. So, Ahsoka, right? She needed a new lightsaber. So she went to a cave and she said, "Hey, I want one of those crystals." And the person who was in the cave, who you pay $300 to get a lightsaber, he was like, "Ah, well, all of the good ones have gone. I only have these ones that I spilled some milk on earlier." So she was like, "Great, okay, it's a 2-for-1 deal then." And he was like, "Yeah." So she took them and then she made 2 lightsabers.
I'm now thinking One Division, where Wanda's like, hey, I want my husband back. And they're like, your husband's dead, but we have this one we spilled milk on earlier. Do you want him instead?
We spilled milk on it earlier, but it's still good. It's still good. Don't worry. We washed it before it got sticky.
Hashtag milk vision. Get it trending. This is a weird question on my part, because I don't want to get too in-depth in the answer, because it's in the book.
Oh, okay.
But what I will say is the way she got her white lightsabers is she healed a crystal. And that's all I'm giving you now, a little tease.
Ooh. Like a broken crystal.
You have to wait and find out, won't you?
Ooh. Okay. Alright.
We're looking at Ahsoka, the 2016 novel written by E.K. Johnston. And it's her first Star Wars book. She went on to do a Padme trilogy, and she's currently writing a book on Kira in the early days of Crimson Dawn. But before we get into this book, I'd like to give you a quick, very SparkNotes version of Ahsoka's life from the Clone Wars.
Oh, let's go.
We start in the 2008 movie Star Wars The Clone Wars, where Battle of Christophsis is going on, Obi-Wan and Anakin are fighting, and Obi-Wan's super excited to be getting a new Padawan. Anakin doesn't want a Padawan, he's like, no, Padawans are lame. And Obi-Wan's Padawan comes down, and it's Ahsoka Tano. And Obi-Wan's like, hey, you must be my Padawan. And she's like, no, I'm his. And Anakin's like, wait, what? And Kenobi's like, wait, what? And Yoda's like, planning I am. And
It was such an out-of-pocket Yoda. I loved it. Carry on.
And they help Battle of Christophsis. They win the day, and then Jabba's son, Rotter the Hutt, has been stolen. So Ahsoka and Anakin go to save him. They find him. Ahsoka nicknames him Stinky. Anakin and Ahsoka have like this tension going on.
Of course.
Rex is also there, their buddy. But by the end of the movie, they save Rotter, and Anakin and Ahsoka are friends.
Aww. I hope that lasts a lifetime.
Over the next few seasons of Clone Wars, they go on many fun adventures together. There's that time Ahsoka gets kidnapped by slavers, and she meets Chewbacca, and she has to save herself because Anakin can't find her. There's that time that Obi-Wan fakes his own death and doesn't tell Anakin about it, so Anakin almost goes dark side and Ahsoka's there. Maybe they didn't have a good relationship.
No, I'm hearing this and I'm just like, I don't think that they were very good friends.
And there was a time when Ahsoka's framed for a crime, and Anakin decides to try and bring her in for questioning instead of trusting her, which is part of the reason she decides to leave the Jedi Order when that situation's sorted.
Anakin.
She then becomes a mechanic for a while, but she realizes that she likes saving people too much. So when Bo-Katan comes to her and is like, hey, there's this crazy Sith guy who's taken over my planet, do you want to come help? She's like, yes, but first I need to talk to my old master to try and get some men, because we need men on Mandalore. We need identical looking men.
We need men's on Mandalore. A lot of identical men.
And then we lead into your lovely intro.
That's when the Siege of Mandalore happens. There we go. During the coincidentally identical man war.
Yes. Have you got any questions about Ahsoka?
Yes. Why did they give Anakin a Padawan? He was clearly very unstable.
he wasn't unstable at this point. He gets more unstable as the war goes on, and the Jedi treat him terribly.
Yeah, but like the Jedi also treat Ahsoka terribly, and she's okay.
Yeah, is she?
I mean, okay is relative. It's very relative. Yeah, fair point. Ahsoka was she was a Padawan. She was very young when this series started. How much time does this span? Your timeline summary.
So it starts in 22 BBY and it ends in 19 BBY, so 3 years.
Oh, okay. Oh god, she was so young. Oh,
I can tell you, in fact, that in season 1 of Clone Wars, she is 14 years old.
Oh, bless. So she would have been like 17.
17 fighting Maul.
Christ. And she kicks his ass, which, spoilers.
This book we're about to read is 18 BBY, so 1 year afterwards.
Okay. Alright, so she would be like 18 or so. That's so young. Stupidly young.
So before we go into the book, I would like to just cut to my spoiler-free review. In fact, I'm going to cut to my spoiler-free review. You can't stop me. Here we go!
No!
If you've listened to the show before, you probably know how I feel about Ahsoka as a character, and that's why my opinion on this book may surprise you. Let's get into it. So this book takes place a year after Order 66, and Ahsoka is hiding from the Empire. It's a story where she goes to a planet to hide, the planet is trying to meet its quotas, and she spends a lot of time in a bar. And if that sounds really familiar, it's because it's a story as old as 2014, one we've seen a few times already in this podcast, let alone in Disney canon as a whole. This probably would have felt like less of an issue if I mapped us through these stories differently, but I was trying to get the important information for Ahsoka out of the way. The fact that two of our Journey to Ahsoka stories, A New Dawn and this, both have similar premises. I think A New Dawn's better, may weigh this one more negative in my mind. The story is about Ahsoka trying to find herself, and spoilers, that happens multiple times in this book in contradicting ways. There's a moment about halfway through where Ahsoka has a big, oh yeah, I know who I am moment, and then it just gets redone again, and it's edited and she goes back on herself. It makes the character a bit messy. Keep in mind, when this book came out, we didn't have any Clone Wars Season 7, so it's also paying off the last 6 seasons of the animated show. I think it's successful in that regard, and it works okay with the stuff we've had afterwards. Tales of the Jedi adds a bit of conflict, but mostly this story still takes place, and if you're a big Ahsoka fan, I think this stuff worth reading. side characters are a real mix out of good characters and characters who literally just show up when needed. Like, there's characters who show up twice who you're meant to get emotionally invested in, and I don't think that's very successful. There's also characters like Seldar Barkeep, who a lot of his development with Ahsoka happens off screen. Now I'm saying off screen when it's a book, but it makes it hard to get invested in his character when you don't see that relationship grow. The main side character, Canon, is a really good addition to the Star Wars universe, though, and I really like how the book handles her and where it takes her. Villains in this book are kind of non-entities. I don't want to get too much into it, but yeah, they're a disappointment. All in all, would I recommend this book? And it hurts me to say as a big Ahsoka fan, but I probably wouldn't. Out of all the books you've read, this was my least favourite. I'll go as far as to say it's the worst. And if you're not a massive Ahsoka fan, I feel like this is completely skippable. It's too late, Emily. It happened. You missed it. You'll know it was too late.
Oh no, I'm so sorry, guys. I'm so sorry. The entire time that was happening, I was banging on the walls and screaming, but Sam wouldn't do anything.
So, we start at the Siege of Mandalore, where Ahsoka has gone to fight Maul.
Woo!
Anakin's given her back her old lightsabers, her old green ones, and he warns her about Maul before she goes, saying, "You know him? He's a bad sort. Be careful."
He is a bad sort.
And Ahsoka's like, "Look, I've seen the last 7 seasons of Clone Wars. I know he has this weird thing for Kenobi. I know he kills people. Like, how bad can he be?" Arriving on Mandalore, they're in like this big arena place, kind of like a coliseum, and they're circling each other. They're about to fight. And Maul says that, it's nice of her old masters, Obi-Wan and Anakin, to save him from having to fight a real Jedi. Ahsoka goes, "Actually, this is going to be a fair fight, because technically you're only half a Sith."
That's so mean. That's so mean.
She even thinks to herself, wow, Obi-Wan would have found that very tasteless. No, he wouldn't.
I
He would
mean,
have loved that one.
No, he would have loved that.
He'd be like, ho, 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 I cut him up myself.
No, we all know this about him.
So they're pacing around, and Ahsoka's waiting for the fight to begin. And Maul activates his lightsaber and charges. As he gets near, she activates her green sabers, blocks him, manages to position him in the right spot for her allies to trap him in a ray shield.
Whoa.
A year later, Ahsoka is alone, and Empire Day is approaching. Which, if you don't remember, that's the big celebration, because, hey, it's like the 4th of July, but fascist. She's currently hiding on a planet called Fabeska, which is known for its trade in water and tech and smuggling. And at her door, someone's calling her name. They're saying, "Ashla, Ashla," because that is the name she's assumed in hiding.
Whoa. It's not as good as Ahsoka.
Nah. But how's it compared to Kanan as an assumed name?
I mean, it's better. It's better.
Oh yeah, I should warn
Not
you.
gonna lie.
I hope you like stories about Jedi surviving after a purge, kind of washed up, spending a lot of time in pubs under an assumed name, because
it's a common theme. It's almost as common as Order 66 flashbacks at this point.
She opens the door, and who's there? But the nieces of her neighbours, the Fardis. They're trying to get her to come see the Imperial Day Parade with her. They go on to tell her that there's some fancy friends who are sitting with their family. Their family, the Fardis, are like the biggest family on the planet. And they're wanting to meet anyone who newly arrived. And even though she's been there for nearly a year, she's still kind of new to the planet. And she says to the girls, "Look, you go ahead. Give me some time to get ready." And once they've gone, she takes the opportunity to get her hidden goods, some credits in a blaster, and leaving the house. Because she knows these fancy friends are going to be Imperials, and she thinks that the girl's uncle has sent them to give her warning to get out.
I mean, the Imperials are the fanciest people on the planet. The galaxy, so...
As Ahsoka runs to a spaceport, she runs into some stormtroopers. "Hey, what are you doing here?" And she recognises the voice is not that of the clones. "Why aren't you at the festivities?" "Oh, I'm on my way." And past them, she jumps up onto one of the roofs and continues on her way out of sight. At the spaceport, she looks at the ships, and sees one owned by the Fardis, their legal businesses. And she tries to decide her approach. She's like, does she want to be loud and run in there fighting like Anakin would? Or does she want him to be charming like Obi would? And then she realises that both their styles usually ended in a fight anyway. So she decides to do things her own way for a change.
She's not wrong on that front.
She jumps down from the roof, places her blaster on the ground, and overloads its battery, hiding behind a little crate. The blaster explodes, the stormtroopers who are guarding the ships run over, and allows her to get onto the ship and fly away. Heading into the galaxy, Ahsoka's trying to decide her next hiding place, and she decides on a moon called Vader in the Outer Rim. And leaving her ship at the piece of land which she assumes is a spaceport, it's, nothing official. She goes to the outskirts to look for an abandoned house she can call her own. The thing she's learned from Fabeska is that getting involved in local families, making friends, that's a mistake. She's not going to do that here. One of the things she likes about Rieda is that there's a lot of different species here, and she's like, that will help me blend in. Finding a house she thinks will suit her, she checks it from the outside, and someone behind her informs her that no one lives there. Turning, she sees a girl about her age, who she assumes has worked outside her whole life looking at her. She has farmer's hands. The girl informs Ahsoka that the old owner, Citra, got married and moved out. When Ahsoka asks if she has to pay to move in, she's told that Citra didn't. The farmer introduces herself as Caden Lart and asks if Ahsoka is on Rieda for the harvest. Ahsoka tells Caden that she's not a farmer, she fixes droids and machines. And in her head, she's thinking she's nowhere near as good as Anakin was, but the Jedi kind of conditioned you to think that perfectionism's the only way, whereas in the galaxy there's a lot of people who get by just being good at things.
Yeah, they do that.
So, she's kind of like, yeah, I can fix things, but I'm not as good as Anakin. But she's like, but Anakin's a golden god at mechanics. I can get by doing this as a trade.
We can't all be Anakin Skywalker. Come on now.
We can't. And that's probably a good thing. A lot more kids in the world.
a lot more kids will survive that way.
Caden lets the newcomer know that she'll tell others that there's a mechanic in town and try and get some business over to Ahsoka. And then she limps away. And as Caden leaves, she kind of in the back of her mind is like, I didn't get a name. I'll do that tomorrow. Inside the house, Ahsoka hides her goods, so her credits, and a few other things, and starts cleaning. When done, she meditates in the darkness, and in the Force, she can no longer feel Anakin, or most of the Jedi. When she was a child, she had this good sense of people, like this Force Jedi came to try and enslave her, but she knew there were no good vibes there. She could sense it, but now she can't do that. She can't get the same read of people. She wants to trust in her instincts, but there's something blocking her. They feel really icky. But deciding to get a sense of her new planet, she stretches her feelings out across the farming fields and the rocky hills. Kind of gets a vibe of the area around her. Like that scene in The Last Jedi where, Luke takes Rey on the top of the planet from meditation.
Yes.
Life. Death. Darkness. Light. Speech.
That's such a cool sequence, by the way. I really like that little sequence. Anyway, this isn't me gushing about The Last Jedi.
Imagine that, but instead of that, it's Ahsoka in silence.
Okay.
Probably some music. The next morning, Caden stops by again with some mechanical pieces, and she explains it's her thresher, which is a harvesting tool that she had an argument with, and that's how she got her limp. Sitting on Ahsoka's bed, she tells this exaggerated story of how the machine grew sentience and wanted more out of life than being some farming equipment. So she had to break it herself before it started some kind of uprising.
Huh.
And managed to hurt herself in the progress.
Sounds fake.
Yeah, but, exaggerated story. It's very
But,
cool.
I'll let her be the protagonist.
Everyone deserves a protagonist moment.
That was hers. She's used her protagonist moment now on the droid story.
Now you're renegated to side character. Because you know who needs more time as a main character? Ahsoka Tano.
Yeah,
Ahsoka
Ahsoka
Tano needs
Tano.
more main character privilege.
Ahsoka Tano needs more media. She...
Back in Ahsoka's house,
Oh yes.
she's trying to like work out how this machine works, and she decides that one of the parts in particular needs replacing, which Caden kind of laughs at. She's like, on this planet we don't replace things. They don't have money for that. Is there no way you could just fix it? So Ahsoka looks at it, works out how it goes, decides to just beat the piece back into place,
As you do.
whacking it on the ground a few times, stamping on it. She manages to fix the tool, and there's a few spare parts as well, which just pockets. They're not important, probably. Who cares? She's never seen this machine before. As payment, Caden gives her enough rations to last a month. As
Whoa.
Raider is a produce planet, but has big farms outside, food is its main export. So food is kind of worth nothing there, but as Ahsoka's getting settled in, it's a good deal for her. But she's like, next time you come here, you're gonna have to pay. Caden also says that, your door's not got a lock on it, my sister can help with that. And she's like, I'll send some more people over to you. You'll do great business. Ahsoka remembers that she's not here to make friends. And especially not ones who casually sit on her bed. For Jedi were against that kind of attachment in the first place. But Ahsoka's just never felt that need. Like, some of the other Jedi try and bend the rules. She's just not interested.
She doesn't want to do an Anakin, basically.
And one of the reasons she doesn't want to make friends is because she thinks back to Order 66. And how many of her so-called friends turned on other friends and ended up killing them.
I mean, does she know it wasn't their fault?
Yeah, but also, it's still pretty traumatizing for her to have,
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
She's lost
absolutely
most people.
It is.
She's lost all the Jedi through them being killed, and she's lost all the clones through them wanting to kill her.
Yikes.
Like, the chips are still active in most of them.
Yeah, that's a yikes from me.
And if she starts thinking about Order 66...
Does this count as a flashback?
No, it's a daydream.
Ah.
It's a nightmare dressed as a daydream.
Yeah, but like...
But it's not going to be forever.
Like, I'm pretty sure that some of Kanan's flashbacks were daydreams, right?
No, all his daydreams are about Hera.
Fair enough. God damn it. Stupid horny man.
She starts getting overwhelmed and manages to, again, reach out with the Force, and she finds the fields and farmland around her, and she grounds herself. And putting the spare parts in her pocket, she says out loud to R2 that, I'm going to need to get bigger pockets. And R2's not there, of course, but once you get the habit of talking to a droid out loud, it's hard to break out of it.
Yeah, it's like when you get in the habit of talking to a cat or something, right?
Yep. Except it's your friend's cat.
It's your friend's cat who goes, wow!
She then goes into town to have an actual look around the place. She's looking at the shops. Most of them sell the same things, nothing really interests her, and then she heads back to her ship. And for rookie area, she steps outside of town. She plans to go out there and kind of try and find some caves to make a little hidey hole. Just in case things go south. There's no Empire here now, but she knows the Empire's expanding, and she knows, somewhere down the line in a few years, it'll probably make its way here.
Probably.
The next day, Caden doesn't visit Ahsoka, and Ahsoka takes this as her leg being well enough for her to work again. She gets bored, and she decides to make the journey to the rocks. Think about how Anakin would be bored to death from this planet, and Obi-Wan would find it relaxing and then accidentally run into some pirates, because Obi-Wan can't have a nice time doing nothing.
Is that legitimately what she thinks about? Because that's really funny.
Yep. She realises that she can't stop feeling like a soldier, but knows she'll never be safe from the Empire. And despite having little to gain, for it comes to the planet eventually. She finds a cave big enough to stand in, and she decides she can start using it as a hidey hole. And plans to try and find some more caves later on so she can have different stashes hidden around. Meanwhile, in the fields, doing the planting, Caden's fresher is the talk of the town. Everyone's like, whoa, Caden, that's rad. It's never worked well. How'd you get it so cool? And she's like, hey, there's this new Togruta in town. super cool stuff. Like, oh yeah, what's her name? Kay's like, well, her name is. Huh. I've met her twice now, and I haven't asked. Miara, Caden's 14-year-old sister, comes like, oh yeah, you met her twice and you don't have her name? She decides that after the shift, her, Caden, and some of the others will take the newcomer to the cantina. Because, all renegade Jedi need to be taken to the cantina.
I mean, yeah. Why not?
The cantina is owned by Zelda, who is another Togruta, who, sadly, in an accident, lost one of his arms, one of his legs, and maybe replaced with prosthetics, but he also lost one of his Leku. And that couldn't be replaced.
That sucks. I'm sorry, dude.
But he's just pretty chill. And
yeah, I like him. I don't know why. I get a good vibe from him.
He sees Ahsoka and he goes, And Ahsoka's like, yeah, it's Gruta solidarity. Here we go. We're same species, and that means we're friends. And Caden introduces the rest of her farming crew. There's the old leader called Vartan, who's a balding man, and Ahsoka's like, wow, isn't balding weird? I don't have hair, but imagine having hair and then not having hair. That'd be so weird.
Ahsoka, what are you thinking about? What is this? This is such a weird tangent.
It is. It's in the book. I don't know why I mentioned it, to be honest. I just found it fun. Imagine not having hair and then seeing someone with hair losing their hair. That'd be weird.
It would actually be kind of fucked up, because then that would be like, I don't know, it would be like her Leku falling off, I guess, right?
And imagine like someone not having a Leku. Oh.
Oh no.
Sorry, Zelda.
Oh no. I'm sorry, Zelda. I'm so sorry.
So in the accident which took Zelda's limbs, Caden and Miara lost their parents, and Vartan kind of took them in after that. He made sure they could stay in their parents' house. He gave Caden a job on the farm, and he's now looking after Miara as well. Also on the team, there's Mallet, who is a female Celestian who lives with her husband. There's these two twins, a boy called Hoban and a girl called Nera.
The lads of this planet.
Ahsoka introduces herself as, of course, Ashla. And she's like, okay, if you have any repairs, I can do them. You know me. You don't know me. I'm good, trust me. While we're talking, Ahsoka lets slip that she's travelled a lot. And Matt raises some questions. And she also mentions that she can't really remember her parents, which raises even more questions. But luckily, before anyone can ask about this, the food and drink arrives.
Almost like she was taken away from them at a young age by a group of some sort.
Nah, it's fine. when he delivers food and drink, Zelda even is like, hey, newcomer, you okay? And he's like, I've noticed recently that more non-humans have been moving out of the core. Isn't it weird, but non-humans no longer feel safe in the core? Anyway, if you need any help, let me or Vartan know. We're the good sort. Meanwhile, in space, a man called Janif Pilar is doing a job. And based on his name, what kind of person do you think Janif Pilar will be?
I think he's going to be a Pilar of the community, so I think he's going to be a good guy.
His job is finding a place to help out with Imperial food production.
I mean, the Imperials have got to eat too.
Part of the criteria is that it's preferably a smaller place with a population no one would miss.
Oh no. Oh no. He's definitely not a Pilar of this community.
And he's found the perfect place, this small little moon in the middle of nowhere called Vader.
This is a really common theme with these stories, is that somebody will go somewhere where they think they're just like, yeah, this is so off the grid, and like nobody's ever going to notice that I'm here.
Then suddenly you have this cyborg coming in like, I have to meet my quotas.
Yeah, basically. They come and do a Count Vidian.
But not everyone can Count Vidian like Vidian.
That's true, nobody can actually do. They're all pretenders.
Not everyone can vent it like Beckham. In her bed, Ahsoka thinks about what Zelda said about non-humans moving away from the core, and realizes that while the Senate still exists, all the planets are probably now trying to look after themselves without the Jedi to help them. There's nothing to bring them all together to help them with their problems.
Mm.
And she's there asking herself why she was the one to survive out of all the Jedi. And she realizes she survived because she left. And that fact kind of hurts her. As part of that, if she was still a Jedi, she may have been able to help out. She would have been there for Anakin. She'd been able to do more. But also, being the Jedi kind of led to this as well.
Yeah. And the thing is that Anakin is not her responsibility to fix,
Ahsoka looks down at her grave, thinking about all the clones she served with. She thinks about how the Jedi may have died, but the clones had something worse happen. They have their identities taken from them. She dreams of Anakin or another Jedi finding her. She should have been with Anakin. She should have done more. But instead she was on Mandalore. She didn't even succeed in capturing Maul.
Oh no!
But she decides she can't regret that at all.
Let's go, Lin-Manuel Miranda.
She managed to save Rex. She looks down again at the grave that she made him and places down her lightsabers for what Anakin gave her. Even though she left, he still expected her. She thinks of all the dead Jedi who won't get buried and puts her lightsabers in the dirt. Rex already gone. And now it's time for her to disappear. And in the book, this wasn't a song. It's actually written words.
No, but the thing is that you found something and you went with it, and it was powerful. Actually, it was very powerful.
I'm sorry you had to go through that. What we just experienced
was good.
Was a Jedi thinking about the past.
Yeah, as Jedis often do, to be honest.
And some Jedis hear the Force as a song, some people hear it as notion, some people hear it as a white guy rapping really badly.
The thing is that I was just half expecting a chorus to come out and start doing the whoa, oh.
You gotta hide now, it's time to disappear. You gotta hide now, it's time to disappear. You gotta hide now, fake your death, hide now, escape Rex, hide now, hide now. Yeah, you gotta disappear, I am Ahsoka Tano.
Ahsoka Tano. Oh, this is going too far.
Ashla was shocked by how much kinship there was in Vader. Mayara, who's around to try and install the locks on the door, explains they're like family to one another, even throwing Ashla in with the mix, and she's already proved herself to be useful.
Because that's what family is.
Ahsoka kind of thinks that this kinship is similar to a brotherhood between clones. A horn goes off, Mayara is called to work in the fields, and Ahsoka packs a bag that Nyara gave her as payment for fixing a calf maker, decides to head back to her cave. As she walks through town, she's greeted by many of the farmers, and she thinks about the questions Caden was asking her. And Caden keeps asking more and more, and part of her would like to tell Caden the truth, but she knows she can't. In the cave, she started collecting more and more spare parts as she does odd jobs around town. And for a second, she looks at them. Feels like she could make something out of them. Then the feeling passes. In the cave, she sits down and she starts meditating, thinking of Master Plo Koon, who taught her. When the slaver came to her planet, she was scared, but then when Plo came and managed to stop this whole situation, she felt at peace. She used the Force to fill out into the world, to the gardens and the homes, which once confused her. It's like, why would farmers want to tend a garden outside of work? Isn't that like working outside of work?
That's a fair point.
But through meditating, she feels like she understands them a little better. There was an order in the farmers, how they're working, how close to completion this harvest was, when suddenly she feels the rock around her begin to shake. She pulls herself back into her body, gets to her feet. She leaves the cave and climbs to the top of the hill, and looks back at town and is shocked by what she sees. She's like, I just got here. You're kidding me. Why is there
It's those guys.
an Imperial Star Destroyer in orbit?
Yeah. This is like whenever it gets to this part in a Star Wars book, there's always like at the end of the chapter is always, and then there was a Star Destroyer overhead.
Ahsoka thought she'd come far enough to escape, but surprisingly, she was wrong. Who could have seen this coming? Her first impulse is to go and fight, but she can't do that because that would cause the Empire to come here in bigger force. She realises that, we can't be here for her. People think that Ahsoka Tano's dead, and there's no way we could have traced her. So she heads back into town as the Imperial ships land around her. Instead of heading home, she went straight to Seldus to try and get a vibe on how the locals are acting and meet with her friends. As she enters, the older Togruta directs her to a bar stool. Sitting there, she listens to the drinkers' theories about the Empire. She has her back to the door, but Seldus keeping watch. They didn't talk about this arrangement, but they just kind of both fell into the vibe, and it reminds her of this kind of relationship we have with Anakin, how they could communicate without talking.
Okay.
An officer on a troop comes in and they head to the bar, and Ahsoka gets ready to move, and luckily, that's when Kaden and her crew come back, which allows her to, a little less obvious that she's leaving because of the Empire. She can just sneak in with them and go to the normal table at the back. Miara suggests the group play this game called Kroken, which is basically like Space Pool meets Tiddlywinks.
Oh, no, that's fun. So you have to like bounce the ball. You have to like do the thing in pool where you do like the chip shot where it goes over things.
You have like the different colours and you have to knock them out in a certain way, but you like slide them in from the outside. And it's a clever idea because it gives them a reason to A, lean in close, whisper without looking too obvious, and B, it's a game where you have a table and you're constantly moving around it. So they could all like get vantage points of the room without looking too out of place. Ahsoka finds out the stormtroopers have been watching the farmers as they harvest. Like the voyeurs they are.
Oh, no.
And Miara hears that she's heard the troops inquiring about the planet's growth cycle. Trying not to sound like she's commanding, she's like, hey, maybe we should start hiding some rations in case the Empire start taking supplies. The Imperials get up, put notice on the door, and leave. And when the game's over, Ahsoka leads the group over to read the sign, which is some new rules designed to shut down local businesses, such as a curfew which will kill a lot of the bar business. Ahsoka knows that Palpatine can play a long game, and wonders what he's planned next. The following day, at home, Ahsoka's visited by a pair of stormtroopers. Unable to break in, they knock on the door, and Ahsoka, as Ashla, answers. The troopers ask why she isn't at work, and she's like, I am at work. But like, not in the field, I'm a mechanic. I, don't do that field work stuff for scrubs.
She's like, I don't do unskilled labour.
They ask for her papers, and tell her that they may need to reassign her to the fields during harvest. But she does the Luke Skywalker special, and raises her hand. You do not need to see my papers.
She's doing a little noodle scoot there.
They agree and leave, telling Ashla to read the new rules if she hasn't already. Ahsoka collects a bunch of ration packs and leaves the edge of town towards the hills. The Empire have started taking over buildings and setting up a foothold, and she knows she'll have to move her ship soon, but currently she has nowhere to put it. Back in her cave, she carves a natural-looking hidey hole for her goods. Just in case someone went in there, they wouldn't be able to look at it and think, oh, some obvious things will display. Again, the scraps she's been collecting call to her, and she starts to see connections. And again she leaves, this time going further into the hills to try and find a place she could hide her ship. Finding a big place she could put it, she heads back into town to collect it. As she notices almost all the troopers were overseeing a new construction instead of patrolling the streets. She thinks to herself, Rex would never be that lax in security. At the spaceport, she comes face to face with an officer, and not wanting to mind trick him in case he's on the lookout for a Jedi, but notices it. For a moment she considers going home and trying to make fake papers, but deciding it would take too long, she just walks into the dock, and the officer runs over to try and stop her, and she's like, is my ship safe here? The Empire's putting in some high security. We're trying to keep this. It's like, high security? There's one guy here. There's you. Are you high security? What training do you have? And now he's like, well, she just walks to her
She's
ship.
just
And takes
decided to
off.
be a Karen and it worked, basically.
In her ship again, she considers leaving. She could find somewhere new to sit down, but she doesn't want to leave people of Riedo. She gets home later than she'd like, and she runs to the bar, hoping that others haven't been too vocal about her absence because she doesn't want any attention brought to it. Inside, it's a lot less crowded than it usually is, with many patrons heading home with plenty of time to avoid the curfew. In their usual place, the gang is playing this weird Krogan variant, which Ahsoka looks at. She's like, that resembles the Imperial troop, Brutic, and she realizes what's happening, and she runs over and messes up the pieces. She notices that Malta, the Celestian's gone. It turns out that she's found some work on Sullust, and she's packing things so she can take her family and leave.
Give her.
Caden's kind of like, I thought you would leave, Ashla. And when Ahsoka says she's not, Caden's like, oh yeah, and blushes a bit.
Ooh.
Ahsoka asks about Miria's locks. Mira explains that they can explode and make cover a person and die, and Vartan asks if they could explode into more than die. Miara agrees that, in theory, they could, but Ahsoka shuts down this for not wanting to provoke the Empire. Troops then enter, and they make a blockade between the bar and the rest of the patrons. You know, it's near closing time, you can't come here.
Okay.
Rumour has it the Empire are planning to add 2 hours to everyone's shift to try and speed up the current harvest, and they have their own special fast-growing seed, which will keep the work going in the off-season. Ahsoka says that she's seen this kind of thing before. This other farmer, called Tabola, tries to get another drink. Now this guy was previously barred from the bar because he's a bad drunk, but currently Soda needs all the customers he can get. And Tabola tries to push past the Empire, and they decide to make an example of him. Ahsoka tells Kaden not to look, and Kaden covers her sister's eyes. As a blaster bolt sounds, the Empire then leave, and Miara, seeing what's happened, vomits.
Jesus.
Vartan and the twins take the body out to bury, and Zelda brings some bread over to try and help with Miara's stomach. They ask how Ahsoka seems so used to these horrors, and then they get the croaking ball back out, and they start flicking pieces aimlessly. Ahsoka realises that in the game, you have to take another piece if you can, and suggests if the Empire want fast crops, the harvesters should try and slow things down. You know, take the victories they can. As the sisters leave, Ashla tells them to pass this plan on to Vartan and various of the crew, and then Zelda comes over and gives her some food to take home.
Thanks, Zelda.
Over the next 2 weeks, harvest times are extended again to create more productivity. Rest breaks and rations remained the same as they were before, but more water intake was allowed. This just made the workers even more willing to slow things down. They realise that the crops they're growing are this weird thing. What's the word?
These are Palpatine's special seeds.
They realise that they're growing Palpatine special seeds, which grow into the main produce in tasteless ration bars. It's basically all the protein a trooper needs to keep going. And the way they get so much protein in such a flavourless package is they literally sap all the minerals from the ground they're on. This means that, after one harvest of this, Rayata will be unfarmable ever again.
Oh, gross. Those really are Palpatine's special seeds.
And, like I said, this is the moon's main export, so soon they'll have nothing to add to the galaxy.
Yikes.
Ahsoka decides that it's now time to tell Rivers about the caves, where she's not just been storing rations, but also some medical supplies and tech. She asks Vartan if he could spare Kaden and Miara over the next couple of days, while they prep for the next step. Meanwhile, in his office, Genevieve Pilar is proud of his work. The Empire will have what it can from Rieta, and then leave. Looking at his window, he sees the fields, the grasslands, and in the distance the rocks. He hadn't paid the rocks much mind, as his planetary scans told him there was nothing there. But he wants to put every part of the planet into his equations to try and make it the most effective it can be. He decides that tomorrow he'll go check them out.
He can never be Vidian.
And then he goes back to his dinner, a tasteless paste.
Uh, Vidian would never eat that.
And also, his trip to the caves will never be mentioned again. In the field, Kaden, Miara, and Hoden are talking. Hoden picked the spot as it was far away from the Emperor and also that new girl Ashla, who Hoden's a bit untrusting of. You see, she turned up just before the Empire. She doesn't farm. She didn't even give her name when they first met. Kaden points out that, Ashla stuck around, so she can't be that bad. She's like, she must like us. And Miara kind of makes this piteous sound. Hoban points out that Ashla doesn't know what farmers are losing every day. She's never had to work for ground. Her living isn't made for farming. And she asks for sisters to make the supplies that Ashla wants for her plan, as well as some extras with a little more boom. Kaden thinks about how Ashla made this base in the caves by herself. She stole her own ship to, get away from the Empire. And even Zelda seems to be helping her without discussing it with anyone else. And she agrees to help Hoden. After leaving Mandalore, Ahsoka sold her ship to a man called Fardi, making sure to wipe all traces of her past from the records. Fardi's nieces took Ahsoka under their wing, setting up with her home and a job fixing droids. She tried to go unnoticed for a few days, but soon she realizes that the Fardis are working in both legitimate and illegitimate jobs. One day, 2 months later, Fardi's kids were playing at the docks with some crates. And before Ashla shooed them away, one of the crates fell. Without realizing what she was doing, Ahsoka dipped back into the Force and just, slowed down one of the crates to stop the kids getting hurt. Part of her was kind of happy to know that she could still touch the Force. Then she realized the youngest Fardi, Hidala, had seen what she'd done. From that moment, Ahsoka decided to keep a close eye on the child, and one day was horrified to see that when alone, Hidala could move rocks with her mind. She hadn't had to hide a Force-sensitive child before, and she's barely able to look after herself at this time. She didn't want to, raise up a Fardi family in case that backfired. And the day the Empire came, when she was offered a chance to escape, she took it. Only remembering Hidala when she'd already gone.
Damn.
In the caves, Kaden and Miara are working on Hoden's bombs. Ahsoka's not there at the time. And Kaden's trying to talk her sister out of his plan. But every time she does, Miara brings up the people on Vader who've been good for them in their lives. Ashla comes back and she's carrying all the stuff from her other caves. And Kaden looks at her and thinks, wow, she's deceptively strong for her size. And those Togrutas have got some lovely physiology.
Okay, hang on. I've been getting gay vibes for this entire thing, but they're just making it text now, right? It's not just subtext at this point.
It's still subtext.
Yeah, but this lady wants to bang Ahsoka so much.
It's implied, but it's still subtext at this point.
We all know the truth.
At this point. They ask Ashla why she decided to make all these hiding holes, because obviously she started setting them up before the Emperors even got here. And she replies that it's because of old habits. Miara finds Ahsoka's hidden spare parts. It's kind of like, what's this about? Ahsoka explains, when she repairs things, she just takes the spare parts. She doesn't think she can make anything with them, but she just she doesn't want to waste them. And Kaden explains that their mother was exactly the same. And explains that used to lead to arguments between their parents. Her dad doing the washing, and then just finding all these parts in the washing machine and be like, what's this about? And they ask if Ashla's adoptive parents argued much. And Ahsoka smiles to herself, thinking of the bickering between Anakin and Obi-Wan.
Ahsoka, why are you referring to them as your two dads? That's kind of adorable.
She's like, yeah, they argued.
Oh, that's cute, actually.
And Kaden suddenly thinks, she's like, yeah, this Ashla person does seem a bit sus. I like her, but she's a bit sus. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead with Hoden's plan until Vartan goes against it or it goes bad for me, and then I'll go and find Ashla and fill her in on what's happened. For the next couple of days, to make explosives and secure the cave entrances, collapsing any too obvious, but keeping the main one facing town unblocked so they can use it as like a scouting post. On the fourth day, they head back to town, and Miara and Caden head back home to prep for work, while Ashla goes to the canteen to talk to Vartan, who's been recruiting the other groups to their plan and watching Imperial patrols. They currently have near 40 locals willing to stand up with them. Ashla, happy with progress, leaves a bar, and that's when Hoden emerges from the shadows in the background. And Vartan gives him the go-ahead.
Oh god, this is going to go so badly for them. I know it's going to go bad.
At the shipyard on their first mission, Ashla, wearing a new dark hood from Zelda, leads a team with Miara, Nero, that's one of the twins, and a Rhodian boy called Colvin. And their plan is to go into the shipyard where some Imperial walkers have been placed. They have some mines that have a corrosive mixture in them, and hopefully it will look like the local weather's bad for them. They won't be placed, they won't place any more here. Again, Ashla finds the Imperial security really sloppy. And she remembers this one episode of Star Wars Clone Wars, the TV show, where she's on Felucia and she has to help some farmers set up against pirates. And she's like, wow, this is really some cross-media branding we're doing now.
Do you remember when this happened in the Clone Wars TM?
Going to place one of the charges Miara gave her, Ashla realises that what in her hand isn't a corrosive charge. It seems to be a pretty potent bomb. And she kind of like turns to Miara. Miara's like, oh, sorry, that's the wrong one, and just takes it and gives her one of the correct ones like it's nothing.
That ain't slick at all.
They just don't talk for the rest of the operation.
It was just too awkward.
And when it's done, Ashla's like, Zelda's now. Ashla storms into the bar, and Vartan jumps to his feet. And Ahsoka looks around and she's like, hang on. It should be more full in here. Where are all the youths, huh?
Where are the youths?
Where's Caden gone? Where's Hoden gone? Why are the only people left in here? For people are described personally as old and slow.
Is that what she says?
It's what she thinks.
It's what she thinks. That's mean. Come on, Ahsoka, be nice.
She gets out the explosive charge Miara gave her and places it on the table next to Vartan. And she's heard that Vartan tried to distract her while running his own mission. She's like, okay, but there are a few targets. Please tell me you're not dumb enough to go to the barracks. And Vartan kind of flinches. And Ashla's like, my dude.
My guy.
In like the next half an hour, the Empire are going to go out to the landing platforms, check their walkers, find out they're being corrosive, and raise the alarm. Where do you think when the alarm's raised, the troops are going to come from? Vartan says that he didn't know, and Ahsoka's like, no. You didn't think. Now everyone in here, go home, except Miara and Nera. You come with me. We're doing a rescue mission. And luckily, it takes longer than Ahsoka expects for the alarm to be raised. The alarm, nonetheless, is raised before we manage to get to the barracks.
Uh-oh.
And straight away, there's an explosion in the distance, which Miara's like, that's bigger than anything I made. This must be going wrong. And Ahsoka's like, wow, really? You think this has gone badly? Ashla gets Miara to stand on the edge of Imperial land. The plan is that Miara will direct people to the caves, while Nera and Ahsoka direct them to where Miara is. Ashla's like, look, I'll buy some more time when we get people out. Just try and do what you can. Miara's like, where did you learn all this stuff? And Ahsoka just knows she has to give a nugget of information at this point. She's like, the Clone Wars. And she's like fairly sure that they'll just assume she's some kind of local militia and won't put all the pieces together.
Wait, she's a clone? Holy shit! Could you imagine if they'd just been like, oh my god, I can't believe it, she was a clone? What the fuck? She looks... What is this?
Clone.
This entire time, she's been lying to us. She was a clone this whole time. Only clones fought in the Clone Wars.
Going into the barracks, it's not looking good. The farmers are seriously outmatched. Ahsoka manages to find Hoden and Caden leading their group, and tries to lead them out, but they get surrounded by Imperials. Hoden tries to jump one of the troopers, but gets shot, and that causes Nero to start screaming. She's like, "Oh no, my twin is dead. I am sad now. This is my sad noise. Wah, wah, wah."
He's dead?
Yeah, he's dead. Hoden's gone.
Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. Yeah, that is bad.
Did you not get that from Nero's sad crying when she went, "Wow,
No,
wow,
but,
wow"?
like, that's what... That's why I wanted to confirm. I didn't know whether she was crying because she thought he was dead.
1 second there's a life, the next second...
The next, nothing.
The Imperials raise their blasters to shoot again. This time, Ahsoka lifts up her hands, and with a force pushes the Empire away. And she looks up and notices the way both the Imperial officer look at her, and Caden looks at her. Ahsoka orders them to all run away, and manage to get back to the caves. Janif is very stressed with this strike, which he wasn't awake for. He was asleep when it happened.
Oh my god.
He's kind of insulted, but you know.
This dude sucks. He's such a bad villain.
He's kind of insulted, but you know, this attack would even happen. He's like, "Oh man, I'm trying to do nice things for these farmers, like, you know, make sure they never have to work again, and probably kill them." But he's also fine because he's like, "Oh no, I can still reach my targets. They don't need to sleep. It's fine."
It's all
He's
that
like, "The curfew will be stricter, and the leadership of this little renegade squad will be rounded up and publicly tortured."
Yay!
But I have one big issue here. And that's that there's multiple reports of a Force user. And he doesn't really know what the protocol is for Force users. It's above his pay grade. But he's sure that it will be reported to the right place.
Yeah. I'm sure it'll be fine. This guy, by the way, is the worst Imperial ever. Like asleep when shit was going down.
He was cool for a second. He was like, "Ah, yes, I haven't taken these caves into account. I'll go visit them." And then he probably forgot to do that. To be fair, he probably just slept in.
Honestly, probably did.
He woke up. He was like, "I could go investigate these suspicious caves, or there's some relocation on." I'll watch the Star Wars equivalent of "Come Dine with Me."
You know what? I think that Thrawn would secretly like the Star Wars equivalent of "Come Dine with Me."
Today, Dexter Jester has been making. Back in the caves, Niara had to be sedated to stop her from hurting herself. I just think that that's a fun little detail to throw into your Star Wars book.
Oh, Jesus.
Ashla sat there with Miara and Caden, and she decides it's time to tell them the truth. That she is actually not Ashla. She's the very differently named Ahsoka, who is a Jedi in hiding. Shh.
Hush. Everyone, nobody say anything about it.
And it turns out both sisters are kind of hurt that Ahsoka didn't do all she could to help them. She didn't tell them about her military training. She didn't use the Force when Hoden died. But just a bit peeved, to be honest.
What, like in front of stormtroopers? Really? They're pissed that. Oh, okay.
I mean, she ended up doing it anyway. Why couldn't she have done it like 2 seconds
but,
earlier?
The fact that they were just like, well, I just think that they're being a little bit unreasonable. You know?
Ahsoka's like, "Look, I didn't want to reveal who I was because I knew it would end badly for you and your friends and your family." And Kate's like, "You're a Jedi. What do you know about family? I bet your friends were clones." And Ahsoka's like, "Fair."
Fuck!
But also, yeah. And Caden's already gone. Caden's walked away.
What's wrong with clones? And also, that was such a specific dig. It was like a laser pointed dig. Like, they couldn't have done that better if they tried. Like, I bet all your friends are clones. And Ahsoka's like, no.
There was also the droid.
There was a droid. There's Anakin was not my friend, no.
He was my daddy.
Oh no, don't say it like that.
Ahsoka starts noticing that all the other farmers seem a little bit scared of her. She gets up to leave the cave, knowing that she has to leave the planet, as it's the only way she can save everyone there from the wrath of the Empire. She closes her eyes, and she sees Hidala, regretting abandoning her. She decides, she could run, but she won't. She has to stay here for these people now while she can. When she hears Miara call behind her, and hears that Caden left the cave and never returned.
Uh-oh.
Ahsoka realised they clearly saw Caden's face in the raid last night.
They saw Caden at the illegal rave.
They saw Caden at the illegal rave last night, and they probably ain't know her face. Ahsoka goes after Caden, leaving Miara to look after Nira, and she picks up all her pieces of tech junk before leaving. Meanwhile, Caden was captured and tortured. The first session including no questions, just pain. After it was done, the Imperials came in and asked about any medical conditions, got any heart problems, are you some kind of weird species hybrid? Is there anything we need to know about? Like, how much torture can you take? And then they inject her with a weird concoction as an interrogator droid comes in. At this point, Caden's like, I will say anything to stop this pain, it's horrible. The interrogator comes in. Ah, yes. Caden, you have a sister, you work with this crew, you also did all these crimes last night at an illegal rave. Look, I'm gonna be honest here. You're gonna die here, but you get to pick how many regrets you live with. Tell us where the insurgents are hiding, give us the Jedi's name, and, you know what? I'll give you until morning to make your choice.
Make your choice.
And then he leaves. And Ahsoka, no longer needing to hide her force abilities, is just jumping from roof to roof, and looks at the prison, and sees a cell window with a light on. And using Miara's last corrosive charge, she melts the bars, and breaks in, and frees the drugged Caden. They make their way back to Ahsoka's home as the sun's rising, and Ahsoka's making this plan. She's like, okay, Caden, we'll wait until it gets dark again, then we can run to the cave. But Caden tells Ahsoka that she has to run or she'll die. Caden gives Ahsoka permission to leave Raeda, and Caden says, look, Ahsoka, you've expanded my galaxy.
What?
And Ahsoka leaves, happy to have done something heroic this time.
What does that mean? What
You've
does she mean by this?
Galaxy.
Wait, no. What does she mean by that?
I don't know.
What was she metaphorically saying? That could mean anything. So if me and you were arrested after we attended the illegal rave last night, can you imagine I'm being dragged away by the police? We're being dragged into separate police vans, and I just look at you and I just go, Sam, you've really expanded my galaxy. How would you react?
Honestly, I think I'd delete your number.
That's fair. That's actually
I'd be like,
fair.
officer, can I have my phone? Not to make my one call, but to instead delete a contact.
They're like, this does actually count as your one call. You can't call your mother.
I don't care.
now.
It's worth it.
Also, this is extremely gay-coded, and we love that. We love to see it. I just think that her saying that it just expanded her galaxy is really funny. It's very cringe fail lesbian of her. I love this for her.
We get a flashback from when Anakin and Ahsoka first meet, and this time from Anakin's perspective. And you have to remember that Ahsoka was originally meant to be Obi-Wan's Padawan. And we get in some internal monologue, and it's Anakin's fears. For the whole reason he'd never wanted a Padawan is because he felt that, getting one would kind of ruin him and Obi-Wan's relationship. Like, Jedis usually go around by themselves or in pairs. You don't really hear of Jedis going around in threes. And he's kind of slightly hurt that Obi-Wan took the first step of getting a new Padawan. Because he's like, but me, am I replaced?
Oh, bless him. That's actually really cute.
Meanwhile, in the present day, in a fancy office, complete with an aquarium, a senator is feeling overwhelmed. He tries to do the best for his own people when being watched by the galaxy. He tries to do the best for the galaxy when being watched by no one. He's now reading about alleged Jedi activity on a planet called Raeda. And he thinks of Order 66, where he tried to get to the Jedi Temple and saw a Jedi kid shot down in front of him, an event he still has nightmares about. Bail Organa hopes his daughter will only show her mother's gifts instead of her father's.
Oh my god, it's the king! I love this man! Holy shit!
He realises that a Jedi would never stop being hunted by the Empire, but he also knows that they could be a powerful ally. He considers contacting Obi-Wan, but they promise to only make contact in dire circumstances. For more on this, see the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show.
Yeah, I was about to say. You have done it before, though.
No, he'll do it later.
Oh,
Wibbly wobbly, tiny boy
okay.
me.
Wibbly wobbly, times are like.
That hasn't happened yet.
Okay, that hasn't happened yet. Duly noted.
Leia is one.
Aww.
Meanwhile, the sixth brother is finding that all kids look the same to him. You see, this family he's been stalking has many, many kids, but he can safely assume that the older ones aren't his prey, as, the Jedi would have swooped in and picked him up. But he's beginning to doubt that anyone on this planet is Force sensitive, because he hasn't really seen anything. And the footage he saw of this incident in a dock was compressed beyond identification anyway. He thinks the easiest option would be to kill the whole family and have it done with. While the Fardis are known here, they wouldn't be missed anywhere else. But his current directives were to capture children, not to kill them. Then, on a special frequency meant only for Inquisitors, he gets word of a suspected Jedi Padawan on a nearby moon. And he sends a message saying he's going to be heading there. He's like, oh yeah, I can actually kill this Jedi, it's going to be so good. But he wants to, get him there first, because while Inquisitors can bicker over their prey, he wants to, have a claim.
Okay.
As the sixth brother took off, Hidala Farley feels this shadow disappearing from her life, and suddenly feels a lot more at peace. Ever Ahsoka went in her ship, she felt the Imperial power. Where the Empire wasn't, the crime syndicates were, and after days of travelling, Ahsoka decided that the best option was to return to Thebesca. At the spaceport, she's met by one of the Fardi uncles. He's kind of like, you returning our ship? And she's like, nah, may need it again. And he doesn't seem too angry about it. She's like, yeah, nah, I'm probably good here. And she's taken to the Fardi house, where she's actually put up in the main house as a mechanic this time. All the nieces are happy to see her, and this time she's going to make an active effort to learn all their names, which is something I'm not going to do.
That's fair enough, I probably won't either.
The important thing is Hidala sensed Ahsoka coming, and of course she was the one who greeted her at the door. And after a few days, they get to talking, and Hidala mentions the shadow she felt. From the description, Ahsoka decides that the shadow is too slight to be Palpatine. She's like, as if the Emperor could even sneak out a world like this.
Damn.
She'd been hearing words of this dark enforcer that Palpatine has, but doesn't think it could be him either. And more worryingly, she noticed that it seemed to have left just after her show on Rhaetar. After a week, the Fardis get Ahsoka piloting for them. And as she travels around Thebesca smuggling, she notices that the Empire's second weapon to fear is hunger. She's doing all these food runs and seeing how much joy she's bringing to people by delivering them food. She feels like she needs to do more. Soon she's allowed into space. She starts noticing that a lot of the Imperial infrastructure was actually put in place during the Clone Wars, partly by her and the Jedi. And one day when she's doing a job, she picks up an escape pod signal and manages to pick up this family. She helps them save their friends from the Black Sun Syndicate. Being a Togruta, one of the less prevalent species in the galaxy, she's hesitant to show her face. But managing to cover herself in a hood, she soon makes Ashla a hero regularly helping the needy in the Outer Rim. Meanwhile, on Rhaetar, Janeth was shocked to see the Inquisitor because he was kind of expecting more troops, not just one guy. And the sixth brother points out that the Empire now have bigger priorities on this planet than the farming. He's written this retroman about the local officer, but he doesn't really hold them accountable for the Jedi's escape. If any odd Imperial officer could capture a Jedi, there'd be no reason for Inquisitors, would there?
That's fair. Very fair.
It's like the local Kadeen didn't seem to know anything about the Jedi based on the interrogation, but yet, the Jedi saved her. Sigfrid has started thinking about his heroic acts in other systems, and he's decided to set a trap. Find the insurgents and use them to bait Jedi back.
Which will probably work.
He deletes his reprimand of a local officer, not wanting him to get replaced before the job is done, because, reasserting your authority is a lot of hassle. And Bail Organa, on Coruscant, has also been making a list of heroic acts in the Outer Rim. There's not really any pattern, but he's sure it's all about one Jedi. He gets in Chadri Tage, a pilot, and Chadri says that if he can get into the supply lines in the local area, he'll be able to find out what's up. And Bail sends him and his co-pilot Tamsin to investigate. He doesn't let them know that they're looking for a Jedi, as he wants to keep them out of the loop on all the information in case we get captured. But he makes clear that when they find the objective, he'll come and meet them. One day, Ahsoka gets back to the Fardy house after a mission in space to find the doors wide and found in the main room surrounded by stormtroopers. She sort of hesitantly comes in and introduces herself as a mechanic, Like, I'm a mechanic, I work here. The family's like, yes, she's a mechanic, she lives here.
Definitely.
They're kind of feeding each other's life. She doesn't want to give too much information in case it contradicts their story. But they're kind of playing off each other. Ashla comes in and sits herself next to Hidala, and they kind of confirm that they can't fill the shadow. That's not fair right now. The stormtroopers search the house, but after finding nothing, they leave. And Papa Fardy sends the rest of the family out, except Ashla, who he apologises to for putting her in the crosshairs. And Ashla's kind of confused like this, because she's like, but what do you mean put me in the crosshairs? I've been doing all this heroic vigilante shit, call me Taylor Swift. And Fardy's like, vigilante shit? Great song. Also, no, we've been doing illegal smuggling, that's the issue.
Great song.
They kind of have this laugh with each other, like, haha. If we'd actually spoke to each other about this, we could have, made an actual operation out of it and probably lasted a bit longer. But the Empire's run board us, you need to leave.
Hindsight's 2020.
As she goes to leave, she kind of stops and turns to Fardy and is like, look, about Hidala. And she sees some recognition on his face. He kind of like, yes. Do you think she'll grow up to be a mechanic? Wink. And Ahsoka says, she'll probably show some interest in being a mechanic. Wink. But if you leave her to it, she'll grow into other things eventually. Fardy thanks her and she goes to pack. Not wanting to put anyone at risk, she finishes packing and turns to leave to see Hidala in the doorway. Now Hidala doesn't want Ahsoka to leave, but Shadow's not near and she currently feels safe.
Mm-hmm.
And Ahsoka comments about how untrained younglings usually have a natural skill in one area of the Force. So Ahsoka could feel people's emotions really well. Hidala has this sense of light and darkness. Anakin had natural reflexes. It's kind of like how when they grow up, Jedi can sometimes have specialties. I think it's cool the idea of when they're untrained, just children, they can have one skill which speaks to more than the others. I think that's a cool piece of lore.
Yeah, I do as well. That's pretty cool.
She goes back to the Fardy ship and takes off in it again. It's hers. And she stops on a neighbouring planet to check for bugs. Not finding any, she then hears a ship flying into orbit. And she realises she must have been followed. The ship lands, and a figure comes out, 2 guns holstered, and warns the pirate Ashla that she has come to the attention of the Black Sun. Here's one of our famous, just Sam has a thought about Star Wars lore and is interested. Do you know anything about Black Sun?
I don't think so, no. I really don't.
Do you know anything about the crime syndicates, the main ones?
Yeah, I know Crimson Dawn, right? I know them.
Yep.
Because Solo's a good movie. I think I know another one, but the name isn't coming to mind. But I do know it.
So there are 5 main crime syndicates.
Mm-hmm.
There's Crimson Dawn.
Yep.
There's the Hutt Clan.
Oh yeah, that count.
There's the Pike Syndicate, who are the Spice Runners and Kessel.
Oh yeah.
They're mostly the drug trade. There's Black Sun, who this is.
Yeah.
they're led by the pheromone people who make people horny, and usually do like slave trades and things. And there's the Chromora Syndicate.
Okay.
And yeah, those are the 5 main crime syndicates in the galaxy.
The guys.
We'll get more of them down the line, but I just wanted to, that's like a bit of, hey, this is just 5 names you should be aware of.
Yeah. I'm gonna hope that they stay in my brain. I feel like some of them are gone. I remember the horny people. I remember Crimson Dawn. I remember the Pike Syndicate and the Hearts, and I think Boba Fett was in there somewhere because I know that he wants to be a crime boss.
oh, Emily. But Boba Fett wants to take over from the Hutts.
I know, but I just wanted to make.
That's further down the timeline, Emily.
I just wanted to make that joke.
Emily, it's not canon. It hasn't happened yet, Emily. It won't happen for 20 years, Emily.
Oh, God,
Stop trying to
sorry.
make jokes that break canon, Emily.
I'm so sorry.
Canon is life.
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, and I'm sorry that I got us caught last night at the illegal rave. I didn't mean to.
It's okay, Emily. What should I say? Number not recognised.
Number not recognised. This caller is blocked.
How would you like an interlude to Tatooine? Because every book needs a Tatooine interlude.
I mean, yeah, sure, why not?
Would you like to hear about a hermit who wishes he could have done more?
Uh-oh. Is this my sad boy?
A hermit who went to Shmi's grave to apologise to her. Someone he's never met. Because he couldn't keep his master's promise. A promise he never made. But his master did, and he feels some of the guilt.
Ooh.
Do you want to hear about this man who's trying desperately to keep his faith in the lights of the Force, but is struggling?
You know what? I would like to hear about this man.
Do you want to hear about a man who heads back home to look at the sword of his old friend who he left burning in the lava patch?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Maybe I don't want to hear about this man.
Do you want to hear about how he looks at this weapon, this lightsaber that sliced down many children, and thinks, yeah, you know what, one day a kid's going to hold this and use it to kill their dad?
I'm backpedaling.
Do you want to hear about this man sitting in his old shack, desperately reaching out the Force, going, Master Qui-Gon, I know you're dead, but speak to me! And suddenly his master going, Obi-Wan, reach out. And this old hermit, with a renewed hope, getting up, looking at the twin suns, the heat of which is aging him faster than a normal human being, and thinking, yeah, one day more.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear that?
He's like, he just gets out there and he's like, yeah, I'll live. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I'll live.
One day more.
Oh no.
Another day, another destiny.
And I'm Javert. I know about Laban. Oh no, I've mentioned Javert.
Now then, Master Obi-Wan.
Oh no! I just realised what I did. I mentioned. Okay, so anytime that Javert is mentioned, the cadence happens. You have to sing like Russell Crowe Javert Tsukimi, so you have to be like, your time is up 24601.
Get out your house now, Master Obi-Wan.
Go out and look at the twin suns.
You know who I am? Yes, you're Qui-Gon Jinn.
Remember my name.
You must teach Anakin son to fight. Eventually he'll be a Jedi Knight.
Ooh, that was good. Oh god. Javert.
But that's what I have.
No, it was good. It was good. Don't worry. You don't need to do anymore. You've
My old
succeeded.
apprentice was close to death. He was
Oh,
burning.
no.
He will burn again.
I like the fact that Javert has now swapped. Swapped off who's Javert now.
I don't know. Who knows? It's Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon's like, I saw you burn,
yeah.
Anakin. It was nice. Do it again.
It was good. It was good. I liked it.
Do it for Daddy.
Oh no.
Because as we all know, Jedi Knights, Jedi Masters are just daddies to their Padawans.
I mean, yeah. Yeah.
We're making so many Star Wars detours that
We really
there may as well
are.
be a cancelled TV show.
Whoa.
Back on Riada, the Inquisitor returns, having not found the Padawan, but he's made sure that the suffering he's about to incur will be heard through the galaxy. The local troops made no move to capture the insurgents, which he was expecting. He tracks down the interrogator and gets a physical description of Kadeem before leaving. In the caves, everyone was hiding and scared. Kagan could tell there was a lot of regret around following Hoden. Amira comments that it's weird the Empire haven't found them yet. Kaden says that the Empire have very different priorities. Amira asks why Ahsoka would come back. Kaden wants to say that she'll come back for them, but knows that it would just make a sly comment from her sister.
Mm.
And she knows that, Kaden herself would run away from his planet in a heartbeat. It meant never feeling the pain of the interrogator droids again.
Yikes.
The surviving members of the gang are playing a game of Kroken when suddenly news comes of a single Imperial coming their way. With no one in charge, Mira decides to collapse the main tunnel, sacrificing their lookout post for security. Meanwhile, in his office, Janif is getting ready to leave. His work is done, and a few days for half will begin, and if the Inquisitor doesn't mess it up, he's sorted.
This guy's a terrible villain. He's awful. He's terrible. The book's not over, dude. It's not over.
He's gone. He's checking out.
Gideon would never have done this. He would never have abandoned his post. God damn it.
The Blackstone agent says that the pirate Ashla has come to the crime group's radar, and they'd like to offer her a job. Ahsoka declines, running to her ship and leading to a space fight, during which Ahsoka decides that Ashla's life is over, and Ahsoka's new chapter can begin. As the fight continues, another larger ship appears and starts shooting with Black Sun's shuttle. Ahsoka takes the opportunity to try and jump to hyperspace, with a bigger ship too fast trapped in a tractor beam. Outside the cave, a voice called Kaden's name, and tells her if she leaves now, her friends will be spared. Thinking about the torture she endured, she picks up a gun and stuns her sister, before crawling out of the tunnel. Outside, she faces the Imperial, who's unremarkably dressed in every way except for his lightsaber. Kaden tells him that she's willing to come along as long as no one else is hurt. Inquisitor's like, but we've all come to say goodbye. And at that moment, Blaster starts shooting. He deflects them all, and he picks up the Rodian Colvin, pulls him towards him and slices him in half.
Oh.
Many of Kaden's friends and allies die in this failed attempt to ambush an Inquisitor, Nira included.
No.
But as Kaden's carried away, she's happy knowing that Miara survived, safe and unconscious in the cave. And she kind of assumes she's being used as bait to draw Ahsoka out, but isn't sure if Ahsoka will ever come back. Taken into the ship by its tractor beam, Ahsoka prepares to fight, and quickly knocks out the two people on board. She goes to wipe the security cameras and goes to leave, when she hears a beep behind her, one she recognises, and she turns, excited, to see R2-D2.
Hey!
She's kind of shocked that they haven't wiped the droid's memory, and she runs over and says, "Oh, hi there, boy, how you doing?" And up in his little dome.
Aww.
She asks why he's there, and he says that a senator who he can't name but may or may not be Bail Organa has sent him to try and find Ahsoka. And she agrees to come in, but she wants to do it on her terms. So they do a once over ship, and R2 promises to delete all the footage, and she goes back to her own ship. Kendra and Tamsin wake up, and they fly back to Bail, defeated. Bail looks over security footage on his journey, and although there's not much showing, he does see one frame of what looks like a Togruta. A Togruta with markings he recognises. And he's like, hang on a second.
Hold on.
R2's saying he's seen nothing, but if I recognise those markings, R2 definitely would have. And he describes R2 as a metal devil.
It's a fucking menace.
As the ships meet up, R2 comes back on board and gets a berating from 3PO. And Bail's kind of sitting there. He's like, okay, Ahsoka's probably coming in because she recognised R2. He waits around for a while, but when no other ship arrives, he sends Chandra away, and he returns to his office to find Ahsoka sitting at his desk in a pressure suit. He's like, how'd you get in here? And she's like, oh, well, as soon as R2 came back on board, he opened one of the airlocks for me. You know how it is. Buddy, buddy, friend, friend. And Bail's like, oh, that droid's become too independent. So he's like, well, you know, the role models he's had. Bail's like, but Anakin was your role model too. And she's like, oh no, I was talking about Padme. He was her droid first.
I mean,
based on the way Ahsoka's casually talking about Anakin and Padme, Bail was kind of like, did she know? But doesn't want to probe.
Fair point.
Bail offers Ahsoka a job. She tells him that she doesn't want to lead anymore. It went so badly on Riada. And she's like, look, I met this kid. She had a force. It's called Hidala. And is there anything you can do to help force-sensitive children? He's like, yeah, we can try and help them. Don't know how. We'll try something. And he's like thinking of Leia.
No.
And he tells her that she needs an agent with skills like Ahsoka's to help him start a rebellion. And he even has a first assignment for her. To investigate this new Imperial unit. Seen with a red lightsaber on Nova Place from Riada. Ahsoka tells Bail that this shadow was probably trained to hunt Jedi. And Ahsoka asks Bail if he thinks it's weird there was very little information coming from Riada before the Inquisitor arrived. And he agrees that there's a trap being set, and showing Ahsoka an image which was leaked through security channels, she realises it's a trap for her, as the images of a red lightsaber being held to Caden's face, and it's in stunning clarity, and it basically says, it's very, I have your friends, come die, bitch. I don't know.
Come die, bitch.
Come die, bitch.
Come die, bitch. Oh, goodness.
At that moment, the Tantiv's captain, Captain Antilles, comes into the office with a security detail. Bail dismisses them, asking that Ahsoka be set up with quarters. And Ahsoka appreciates that Bail didn't out her as a Jedi. Going to bed, Ahsoka dreams of Ilum, where she first got her crystal. Going through the ice caves, she saw it twinkling in the distance. And getting it, she ran back out the cave. Waking up, she looks at all her spare parts. And she's like going through them, she discards the parts which are useless from the others. She closes her eyes, and she can imagine Hyang, the David Tennant lightsaber building droid, at her shoulder. When she opens them again, she has two incomplete hilts. They're missing quite a few important parts, like crystals, or batteries, or
those are
any
very
aesthetic
important.
decency. But, they'll do for now.
Yeah.
Once complete, she leaves her quarters to go meet with Bail and Captain Antilles to tell them her plan. Bail offers Ahsoka a new ship, but she turns him down. All his fleet are from the Khorne, obviously new, and she doesn't want to stand out. Artu's made some improvements to her ship anyway, and Bail was like, are you sure you don't need any backup? She's like, look dude, I'll call you if I need you. Bail tells her that he's learned to trust Jedi, and she's like, cards on the table, I don't use that name anymore. And he's like, but if you're not a Jedi, who are you?
Who are you?
She's like, well, you know what? When I work it out, you'll be the first to know, haha. And Ahsoka's first stop on this journey is Ilum. Of course, she dreams about it, she has to go there. It's a planet she's visited 3 times in the past. Once each to get her original crystals from her 2 blades, and a third from the best Clone Wars arc.
Subjective.
Watch Clone Wars. As she arrives at hyperspace, she expects to feel the crystals call for her from orbit. But instead, the crystals, once only touched by those they called to, those they were intended for, were now being harvested by the Empire. It's described how evil can cause the crystals to bleed, turning them red. And the planet has scars all over it, with lava bubbling to the surface. Worrying that she's had her crystal share and won't be granted any more, she flies to a neighbouring unnamed planet at the edge of the system and meditates. She considers going back to get her old ones from the grave, but she places them in a place where they're meant to be found, so it's unlikely they'd still be there. Opening a star chart, she closes her eyes and lets the Force guide her, reaching out. In the distance, she hears a call, and she opens her eyes to see her destination. What planet could it be? It's not a planet. It's a moon. Riada. Her new crystals are on Riada.
What?
Returning, she lands on the far side of the moon from the settlement and starts moving, taking her hilts with her. Once nearing the settlement, Ahsoka sees a fire in the distance, and when going towards it, sees Miara there. Miara is happy to see Ahsoka, but crying tells her of a failed ambush and Cadian's capture. Ahsoka asks Miara to protect her while she meditates, and fills the new crystals. They're on the planet, but they have another task for her before she can have them. She also thinks of Bail's offer, whether she'll ever be able to trust again, and she realises here, on Riada, she's already learning to trust. She opens her eyes, feeling whole, and feeling sure these crystals are here for her. Moving into the settlement, the ground and farming land is turning grey due to the unhealthy growing. She's been extended again, and apparently when harvest starts, work will be going non-stop, all-nighters before it's completed. Ahsoka and Miara make plans to burn the harvest if they get the chance, and once in the settlement, Miara warns that they may have to cross the whole town to get to Cadian. Ahsoka tells Miara to instead go to Zelda's, and prep everyone for what's to come. Seeing how good at moving stealthily Miara is, she thinks about how much she hates war.
Mood.
Knowing her prey is expecting her, Ahsoka walked through the streets, not needing to hide. Jedi! She hears, echoing around her. The Inquisitor gloats about how it captured Cadian, how it told her that the Jedi would never come back for her. But he's happy to be wrong. This gives Ahsoka time to zero on his location, but she acts like she doesn't know. The Inquisitor jumps off the roof towards her, igniting his lightsaber. And if you go into your pack to the images, we haven't looked at the images yet.
I will. Oh, damn! It's not what I was expecting them to look like.
So yeah, they have this kind of face shield, and it's currently up because they want to see Ahsoka when they kill her.
Uh-oh.
He takes swipes at Ahsoka, but Ahsoka dodges every single one. And the Inquisitor's like, impressive! And Ahsoka's like, you're clearly easy to impress because I'm just getting started.
Oh.
And she realises that the crystals inside his lightsaber are a dark mirror to a song of her own. The Inquisitor turns his lightsaber into helicopter mode.
Hell yeah.
As Ahsoka probes to try and find his backstory. You have training? Maybe. What's it to you?
You can't unlock my backstory yet, Ahsoka Tano.
He pushes towards her, but Ahsoka, falling into meditation, realises that the weakness to spinning lightsaber is that while the sides are very well protected, the handle itself will be easy to just reach out and touch. She touches it, the force surges, and she causes it to crack. The Inquisitor realising too late, as Ahsoka's already pulled away the saber's power connection, causing the saber to overload. Jumping back, the saber explodes, and Ahsoka notes that if the Inquisitor had his face shield down, he may have survived. Ahsoka closes the shield as a way to honour him, because there are no eyes to close. Before picking up his crystals and some other missing parts.
This is what we get away in the books.
And taking a moment, she finishes her new blades, telling Mon to reveal her new white sabers.
Ba-ba-ba-ba. She goes, oh, fuck. Where's the colour? These ones are broken, and then she just takes the crystals out and chucks them.
The saber exploded and fell into a puddle of milk. Oh, it's...
Oh, is there vanilla? What the fuck?
Only now do the other Imperials start moving in, as they've been holding off to let the Inquisitor do his job. Knowing she's the Empire's only target, she runs down the side streets and jumps into the Imperial compound. Making her way inside, Ahsoka cuts down the corridors, heading to where she knows the prison is, and she presses a button to open all the cells. Ahsoka directs all the other prisoners to Selders, finding Kaden in one of the cells. Kaden sees Ahsoka, looking hella confident and holding lightsabers. It was hard to imagine her without them. And Kaden threw herself forward, saying, "Ahsoka, I could kiss you." Ahsoka gave Kaden a confused look, and she clarifies, "Not now. Oh god, my timing's terrible. And you're a Jedi, there's that whole religion thing. But I just want you to know in case we die." And Ahsoka's like really confused with this outburst, and goes, "Well, thanks.
Oh, Ahsoka.
We won't die."
She really Dean Winchestered this poor woman.
And she puts away one of her lightsabers, clipping it to her belt, giving the arm to support her friend as she takes Kaden back to Selders. And on the way, she messages Bail. In the cantina, Miara jumps forward, excited to see her sister, but the reunion is cut short by the sound of Imperial tanks outside. Zelda comes over and tells them that Varden's already outside prepping people for evacuation, as per Ahsoka's orders. To Kaden's confusion, Ahsoka explains that she's found an old friend, and he's going to come and help. They just need to get out of Selders. Outside, Varden is leading people away from the settlement, as A-Wings fly around giving support and cover. When one of them shoots the fields and fields explode, Mira says she'd love to be able to do that, and Ahsoka says that maybe one of the pilots could teach her, before remembering Miara is 14 years old. Just because Ahsoka started fighting when she was young, doesn't mean Miara has to.
The thing is that Jedi way, what can I say?
The Empire starts to get some ships into the sky, but there's no Star Destroyers anywhere to be seen. Bail's bigger ships enter atmosphere and sit down by the rocks. There's limited time to fill them up, but Ahsoka offers to cover while the evacuation finishes. Kaden's against this idea, but Ahsoka assures her that she'll be fine, getting Zelda to get both her sisters on board for Tantive 4. As 3 tanks come into view, on instinct, Ahsoka rushes towards them. She destroys 2 no problem, trying to do as much damage as she can to make sure nothing can be salvaged. But before she can get to the 3rd, it turns to Varden and shoots, taking the evacuation's leader out of action.
No.
Lifting her hands, Ahsoka crushes the last tank before jumping over to where Varden was. He's still alive, but Ahsoka has to take over the signposting. Putting her sabers away, Ahsoka picks up Varden and took the vanguard of the refugees getting on board for Tantive last. Seeing Varden, Captain Antilles calls a medical stretcher, and they take off. Ahsoka lets a smile cross her face as she took in the hard-won success. Kaden came over and told Ahsoka that from when they first met, she knew she'd fit in. She asks if they ever see each other again, and Ahsoka says they won't anytime soon, but the galaxy is a big place, so maybe, and Kaden again thanks Ahsoka. Meetings with Bail couldn't be made too obvious, so during a supply stop, Ahsoka snuck onto his ship for Tantive 3. It wasn't until they hit hyperspace that she began walking around, and she made it outside his office to hear Bail talking to his daughter on the phone. Hanging up the call, he goes, "Do I have another Jedi break-in to report?" And he goes on to say that Leia's just like her mother. And Ahsoka's like, she kind of feels this is a test, but she doesn't know the answer to it. So she just ignores it.
She just blanks him.
Ahsoka wants to talk about what they could do to continue fighting the Empire, and they talk about the outcome of the Rada evacuation. There are only 2 casualties, one of which was an A-Wing pilot. Varden was saved, and has his own prosthetics now, making him and Zelda a matching pair, for book's own words.
Are they saying that they're a matching set, just like, they've both been through the same shit, like they're close and stuff, or is it just like, haha, each one of them has a
He
limb that
lost
the
his
other
right
one
leg
doesn't.
and his left leg. The other one lost their left leg and their right leg.
Together they make a whole person.
No one has legs. I got that wrong. He lost his right arm and his right leg. He lost his left arm and his left leg. Together they make one working person and also a really bad droid.
Really bad joke. Oh god.
It's just arms and legs.
Yeah, just arms and legs.
It has no body, and neither do I.
Rayman.
The A1 pilots took an interest in Miara's explosive work, and Ahsoka speaks about the Inquisitor, feeling that he's not the only one of his kind, and warning that he had training.
Well, no, the dude was called the Sixth Brother.
But how do you know that, Ahsoka? Did he loudly declare that he was the sixth brother? No, it was
Okay,
written
fair
in the
enough.
book. What book? Yeah, no one knows his name.
Okay, no, fair enough.
Bail tries to work out where to put the refugees, but Ahsoka says that they all want to sign up. Bail warns that they're just untrained farmers, before conceding that an agricultural base could be useful. He then asks about her new lightsabers. He's heard rumours that they're white, and he wants to see them.
Oh. He's like, so is this milk or is it
Ahsoka ignites them, and while she never thought she'd replace her green ones, she thinks these ones are alright. Bail was fascinated by the colour. Ahsoka explains that the crystals were originally red, corrupted by the dark side, but she freed them. She warns they originally felt like they were from the Jedi Temple, and the two agree that sounds pretty bad. Ahsoka says that it's not safe for her to be Ahsoka at this time, even though, like, 2 chapters ago, she had that big moment about how she wasn't not going to be Ahsoka again, and then she had another big moment where she was like,
right?
I finally feel whole. But she's not ready to be Ahsoka this time. So they talk about how, Chancellor Palpatine played them before. Ahsoka says she's accepted she's been drawn back in, and Bail thinks of Obi-Wan. He says there are other people who focus on the past and the future, so it's her and Bail's job to focus on the present. Ahsoka explains that she doesn't want to be a general or Padawan anymore, but something new. And she points out that on Riada, the early issue was communication, how she failed to communicate to those around her because she didn't want to get them hurt. And even when Bail tried to get in contact, Ahsoka ended up attacking his pilots because they didn't communicate well. She wants to find missions for Bail's agents, running his intelligence network, and she takes on her new nickname, Fulcrum. Foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing.
On Riada, the Grand Inquisitor stood in a burnt field. The Star Destroyers arrived too late, and the farmers had escaped along with the person who first brought the Empire here. The Grand Inquisitor wanted to hunt him down, or hunt Ahsoka down, but he had been denied both hunts. Not even he, the grandest of Inquisitors, was allowed to do as much damage to Amun as Ahsoka had. And he was impressed at what she could do when pushed. Heading back to base, he asks that Lord Vader is informed they found another Jedi survivor TM.
Jedi TM.
And that's the end of the book.
I don't know what that tune was. We did it. That was an Ahsoka story. Star Wars and Ahsoka story.
So Emily, what do you think of this one?
What do I think of this one? I thought that there were some good characters in it. I thought that the plot was a little bit like how do I describe it? I feel like it was a little bit slow.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's happening.
It's happening. It's me not being a centrist. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
No, I'm still being a centrist. Don't worry about it. I'm still being an absolute centrist. I'm saying I thought that the plot was a little bit slow. It ramps up at the end. I feel like the midpoint was quite slow. However, guess what? I liked it.
It doesn't have many characters, and yet it handles all its characters really badly. From my experience reading it.
I mean, all of the new characters, there were some interesting ones, but however, the villains all sucked really badly,
Hmm.
and not even like a funny way. It was like these are kind of boring sort of way. Like the sixth brother was in it for like 2 minutes, and
Yep.
fucking Pillar, whatever his name is, Pilar. He
Janif Pilar.
yeah, Ginny Pilar. He was just terrible. He was not a good villain.
Hmm.
And I love me a good
He really
strong
feels
villain.
like budget video.
He does feel like Budget Idiot. He comes in and he does the same thing, but like
I
he
know we're
just
like
cuts
really weird Vidian stands to an unnatural degree, but yeah, budget video.
Budget Vidian. I feel like the comparison is apt here. I feel like he was trying to do Vidian, but he just didn't have the range. What I think of Ahsoka, centrist take. I liked it. It's not high on my list. The characterization was not the best.
Hmm. That's very fair. Favorite moments?
My favorite moment. Oh, what would my favorite moment be? I I like the Obi-Wan, the random Obi-Wan flashback.
It was good.
It was good.
But again, I kind of wish this book was just told in an order instead of just being like, now we're getting a flashback to. Because, so this book
Mm.
came out before Siege of Mandalore. Like, this book came out 4 years before Siege of Mandalore, like the episodes. So, Dave Filoni had an idea of where he wanted the story to go, but of course it wasn't 100% yet. So, we don't want to say it, we don't want to go into too much detail and make it its own thing in the book, because it might change. So, like, we
Yeah.
just keep flashing back to it vaguely. And, again, like, I don't know why it just doesn't start with Ahsoka escaping Mandalore, going to that planet, telling about the kid, leaving. But I
Mm.
feel like that would point out how fast everything moves. Because it does move insanely fast. Well,
It
there isn't
does
much
move
book
very,
here.
very fast in places. Well, it moves really, really fast in places, but like also sometimes you feel like you're kind of lingering a little bit on Riata, and then like
Mm-hmm.
it feels like this is a lot of the stuff on Riata. It's like, oh, okay, we're back on Riata, and then it's like we're just gonna be here a while, and then suddenly you're just pulled to another place.
Mm-hmm. It's one of those things where an editor should come in, and that editor may have came in and been like, okay, so Ahsoka goes in here to save Caden, and Ahsoka saves Caden. They get back to the caves, and they have a little conversation. Then Caden walks back into town and gets captured. Why don't we just have Kagan get
Mhm.
captured in the first place? Then you have someone else going, because then it wouldn't be a novel, it would be a short story.
Mm,
So we need to add these tangents, but you could have streamlined this a lot
yeah,
more and
no,
made it
that's fair.
better. Then you'd have to have found more beef to put on it. And, what more beef could you add? What do you want us to do? Flash out the villains a bit more? I like this book. I like it because I'm a Ahsoka stan. But yeah, it's laid on my list as well.
Well, yeah, no, that's fair. The thing is, though, is that the stuff about Ahsoka in this book is probably the best thing about it. Unironically, like me saying like, "Oh, I really like the random moment." That's like a haha joke thing to say. It's my favorite thing in there. But like, Ahsoka's characterization is quite good and quite strong in this. I think. Um, Everyone else, I just think,
Hmm.
is kind of a kind of a two-dimensional sort of person. You know?
Yep.
But
Kagan
yeah.
has some stuff.
Well, yeah, that's true. But it's all kind of like that wishy-washy. Um, oh, hang on. There might be a homosexual in this novel. You know, it's that sort of thing.
When we opened this episode, I made you recount what you made of the Siege of Mandalore.
Hmm.
And in our previous discussion, I said, when this book came out, we didn't quite have an idea of what was going to happen.
Okay.
And of course, some things changed. And I think it's time for a section inside our show known as Retconaissance.
Yo, reconnaissance is back.
It's back, baby! Dave
It's back,
Filoni's at it
baby.
again!
Boo 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 boo.
So I think we can all agree that the biggest inconsistency is that the book mentions that Ahsoka had a lightsaber belt in the Siege of Mandalore, when in the TV show, she doesn't have a lightsaber belt. She just
Oh
hangs the
no!
lightsabers on her outfit.
How could they? How could she do this? How could the author do this?
Now I'm gonna do like a speed. I'm gonna do a speed round of Siege of Mandalore stuff. So,
Okay.
in the book, Ahsoka's sabers are green. How could she ever live without her green lightsabers? She thought they were hers, then she got her white ones. In the TV show, she comes back, she turns on her lightsabers, and they're blue. And the fan read of this is that Anakin has given her new blue crystals as a way of, implanting himself on her in that battle.
Huh.
But like we said in the canon episode, Depper's lightsaber in Legends and the comic was green, and then in the TV show when she appears, it's blue. So, it's another weird case of green lightsaber erasure.
It is. It's weird how much green lightsaber erasure there is, isn't it? Very odd.
In the TV show, of course, Maul has a lot more motivation than he seems to here. In this one, he seems happy to face Ahsoka.
He's really good in that episode. Those episodes, sorry, I should say. I think it's multiple episodes, if I remember right.
What are
Kenobi.
you doing here?
See, now that's a good fucking villain right there. That's a good villain. You know? Anyway, sorry. I'm going on a tangent about Maul. I like Maul. Maul's great.
Maul's capture is different. In the book, he's captured in a ray shield and he manages to escape while on Mandalore when Order 66 goes down. And also in the book, it seems like he outclasses Ahsoka in lightsaber and she has to kind of trick him. In the TV show, she gets disarmed, and even though she hasn't got a lightsaber, she manages to trick him into,
okay.
the beams. She again loses her lightsaber, manages to beat him, gets him to fall off the beam,
yeah.
and then catches him with force, and they take him in. They manage to get him off Mandalore, and that's when Order 66 happens in the spaceship.
They put him in a little pod. Yeah, it wasn't like it happens after the fight with Maul.
So the last big difference is that in the end of this book, Ahsoka buries a clone to fake it as Rex's death, and then leaves her lightsabers in the dirt and goes off on her own. In the TV show, she buries all the clones, again leaves her lightsabers, but her and Rex go off together for a bit.
Okay.
So, the question I'm always going to ask in Reconnaissance, which one of these versions is better to you?
Ooh. See, now this is interesting because I don't enjoy green lightsaber erasure. I don't enjoy that. However, I think the TV show version's better. I do. I just feel like it's more fleshed out. Again, like you say, I think it's cool that I enjoy it more that Ahsoka just manages to defeat Maul on her own terms rather than having it be like some sort of like sneaky trick and stuff. And I like the fact that his escape is also not just like a weird like, oh oops, we let Maul go. It's tied into the fact that Order 66 is going on and stuff, and that gives a real reason for why they would take their eyes off of the fucking dangerous Sith Lord that they've got caught in this little pod. I think it's definitely better in the TV show, for sure.
I agree with you. And I think for Clone Wars episodes and this book work together. Like, you can get past Ahsoka's saber colour being better, and I do think it's a nice beat for her and Anakin. It connects them at last arc, especially when they haven't, you haven't seen them on screen together for years at this point. So it is nice that she has a piece of him going into it, and it does make her sensing Anakin's fall without realising it even more heartbreaking. Order 66 is beautiful. I like the depth Maul's given. I think it's perfect. But what have I told you that in the year 2020, Dave Filoni may have come back to trample on this book some more?
Oh shit! I might have heard something about this actually.
I'm going to read you a little story. It's from the 6th episode of Tales of the Jedi Season 1 called Resolve.
Okay.
So at the funeral of Padme Amidala, Bail is there with Mon Mothma and he looks over the aisle. It's like on the street. He looks over the street and thinks he sees a Togruta. He goes after her, and sure enough, it's Ahsoka surviving Order 66. So, in the novel, he doesn't realise she's alive until he sees the footage. In this, straight away Padme's funeral, he meets her there. He gives her a communicator, And then when some clones come out
Oh,
to like see
okay.
what's happening, he manages to cover for her, being like, "Oh, I got lost," and they're like, "Oh, you can't be on." He's like, "Oh, rules are changing so fast these days." And Ahsoka's like hiding behind a pillar, and he's like, "But we have to do what we must." An unknown time later, on an unnamed farming planet, Ahsoka is working the fields when an unknown farming brother and sister get into trouble, and the sister is almost crushed by a hay bale. Ahsoka reaches out and stops it, but she's seen by the sister.
Mm.
The sister tries to befriend Ashla, but her brother, who's very pro-Empire, hears the two girls talking about the Jedi. The sister and Ashla take the harvest to be sold one day. They return saying that they're getting less and less each year, to find the village burning. In the flames, an unnamed Inquisitor threatens the brother with a lightsaber, saying that the brother lied to him about there being a Jedi here. The brother says, no, there was a Jedi here. You owe me a reward. And she's like, your reward is death. And goes to swing, where Ahsoka again reaches out and stops him from dying.
Oh.
And the Inquisitor sees her, recognizes her instantly as Ahsoka Tano, and moves to fight her. Again, Ahsoka doesn't have a lightsaber here, but the Inquisitor swipes at her a few times, judges, and she then grabs his blade, disarms him, and slices him down with his own weapon. She then calls Bail in to help extract the survivors, and Bail asks Ahsoka if she's ready to join back up in the fight, to which she nods. And this is a 20-minute episode. Does any of that feel familiar to you?
That's a weird kind of abridged version of this book, isn't it? With some elements changed. It's kind of the same sort. It's kind of the same thing, isn't it? It kind of like it ends in the same way, and it follows a few of the same beats. What I'd heard about this book, I remember from I was just on Twitter just through osmosis. There's a bunch of people arguing over
Mm-hmm.
whether it was still canon or not. That's what I was hearing. So that kind of makes sense now that I've heard this as to why they were debating about it.
Because like the unspoken rule is comics and novels, then games, then TV shows, then movies, and that's like the hierarchy of canon.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Or from like
the like hard
bottom
and
to
fast
top.
rule. The correct thing is, whichever story you prefer is the one you take to heart.
Yeah.
But that's like, as far as future media goes, that's what they seem to go for.
Yeah. I can understand why people will see something that's been made by
Mm-hmm.
Filoni and
Yep.
take it as, the way.
He was trained by George Lucas, and even though he gave his big speech in the foreword of A New Dawn about how much he enjoyed everything being connected, he
Mm.
is getting worse and worse at, especially with characters like Ahsoka that he created, kind of overworking other people's work on that character.
That is it's an interesting thing to bring up actually. And I would say that my gut feeling on this sort of thing is that like yeah he should be able to make like creative decisions about this character.
Mm-hmm.
He made this character and stuff, but it does feel a little bit it feels a little bit underhanded, just a little bit.
I have two questions. I'm wondering which one to give you first. I'll start off with the which one do you prefer, the book or the short?
It's kind of a weighted thing because I don't feel in good conscience that I could say that I prefer the short because
Mm-hmm.
it is lacking in so much detail. I know it kind of gets to the point, but like the fact that you don't even have a name for the
Yep.
Inquisitor, there's just there's no real like I do realize that I was just saying, oh, the characterization is not that good,
Mm-hmm.
but there are no characters in this aside from Ahsoka. Like there's an unnamed brother and sister,
Mm-hmm.
a village full of people we never see. So I don't think in good conscience I could say. Although I'm not sure if it's fair to compare a novel to a short, if you know what I mean.
When they're doing the same story like this, I feel like it is.
No, that's fair.
The next question, and the much more weighted one, is the short LGBT erasure.
Ooh, this is an interesting question.
Because
Very, very
one of the most
interesting
interesting elements
question.
of the book for me is Kaden and her relationship with Ahsoka. and having basically the same character, but
Yeah.
yeah, not named. Like, even if you did in the short just make this character obviously have a thing for Ahsoka, like she has words. You could give her that characterization. You could do it, and people could get it in a short. Like we've seen Wallace and Gromit, you know what you can do in half an hour. Wallace and Gromit is the standard.
I love Wallace and Gromit. It's the benchmark. You love to see it. Wallace and Gromit is the industry standard. Yeah, I do. In all seriousness, though, I do think this is a very, very interesting question.
Live action Star Wars is a lot more mass market than the books. We've said before, High Republic. We haven't got to it yet. It's very queer.
The thing is, I don't want to. I know that I have said that I feel like the representation in the novel is it's that classic sort of brand of wishy-washy where they won't say, and then they have the main character specifically try and distance themselves from it. It's kind of, I don't know if this is insulting to say, it's kind of the Supernatural brand of like,
that's fair.
you know, like you know, it's like, oh, you know, we're gonna play into this for whatever reason, for maybe genuine reasons, like we want to make a character who can be read as queer, or a reason of our audience would probably like this, maybe that sort of reason. Either or.
My read of it in my book is that Caden is very, very much gay, but Ahsoka is, I hesitate to say ace, but you know, she just hasn't thought about this part. She even says at one point that, like, you know, she mentions other Jedi try and bend the rules, but it never interested her. She never saw a point.
No, that's fair. Yeah, she does mention that at one point.
I feel like it's less wishy-washy, more these are two characters who are doomed to never be together from the offset.
That's a very fair way to read it. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, oh, this is a very complicated thing to get like a pinned down answer to this question on, because there's so many different ways to read it. But I think in my heart of hearts, from me reading it, I think I've been coloured by my reading. No. Oh, I've been coloured so much by the media that I've looked at, and the creators who have, you know, they've created characters and put suggestions in there, and have laughed at fans for pointing out these suggestions to them, and have gone, no. I think that everyone's read of a character is valid, and if you think this character's gay, that's great. If you don't, that's great. You know, what the creators have to say is a different thing entirely. It's hard. It's what it is. I feel like I don't want to say that this is gay erasure, because I kind of want to give these people the benefit of the doubt, even though maybe I don't know if I should or not. You know, I don't know if I should give the people involved with the writing and the agreeing upon, and you know, of making the TV, regardless of how canon, quote unquote, the queerness of the character in question is. I don't think anybody could tell if there's genuine malicious intent or not, and I'm happy to be corrected if I'm wrong on that. Obviously, I've not seen the short, but yeah, that's a hard one. A hard one to say.
So I actually have some creators' opinions on this.
Oh yeah, no, let's go.
So E.K. Johnston, the author, felt that some fans had celebrated the fact that this book was being made non-canon, originally by the Siege of Mandalore stuff, and then by the Tales of the Jedi stuff. She obviously feels a bit disappointed in the fans, not the media itself, but you know, the fan reaction to it.
That's understandable.
Ashley Eckstein, the voice actor for Ahsoka, who actually read the audiobook for this, believes that the novel and the short show two different events.
Okay.
Which is fun to try and marry up, considering in the novel, Ahsoka doesn't know Bail's alive, and Bail doesn't know Ahsoka's alive.
I don't agree with that.
In the short, Bail meets Ahsoka at the funeral. Again, these are things you can work around them. But the idea that, as you know, either early on Ahsoka went to a foreign planet, and had a near identical experience and met an Inquisitor. But then in this book, she hasn't met an Inquisitor before, so it would suggest that this takes place afterwards. So maybe after this, between them evacuating Riada and her final meeting with Bail, she goes off on her own again and has a near identical event happen. In which case, she'll have her white lightsabers, so why wouldn't she fight back? But
nah, I don't think this is a thing.
I like the idea of Ahsoka being in like this time loop where she keeps hiding on foreign planets and keeps being betrayed and tracked down.
I think specifically the Bail thing is the thing that makes me say no. I don't think I agree.
Mm-hmm.
That's just me.
And there is a Pocket Guide to the Dark Side book, which lists all Darksiders, and it clarifies that Sixth Brother and the Inquisitor in the short are two different characters.
Okay.
The Inquisitor in the short doesn't look like Sixth Brother. Sixth Brother has appeared in comics, hence why we have the art of him. And in the book, he's listed as appearing in books and comics, but not in the TV show.
Interesting. So that's the line that they're going from. That this is that the official line that we can say, because this is, I'm assuming, this is official.
It's hard to say because there's a lot of books in Star Wars, and this is like one of the reference books. But it is written that these two Inquisitors are different characters, to whatever extent that means. And it is canon that Sixth Brother died to Ahsoka, and this other guy died to Ahsoka.
Yeah, but how much of that do you think is genuine? We planned it to be this way, and how much of it do we think is damage control? Maybe.
As someone really big in Star Wars, I am very colored on this. I love Dave Filoni. I feel like he needs to take a chill pill when it comes to how much he tries to have control over his own characters.
If you're going to trust other people with your characters, I feel like you should maintain that trust. If he had to have been involved in the process of this, he had to have okayed this book to go out. I feel like you should respect it once it's out. I
don't want it in every time we do a Retconaissance reference older Retconnaissances. But this, much like Kanan's Order 66 encounter, if you're going to change it, why is it so damn similar?
Yeah, very fair.
You're trying to work with middle line and telling worse stories.
Yeah, because it is an inferior version of the story. That's the thing. The novel version of the story is more in depth. It adds story. It is a better story, I think, than the short has told. At least from what I know of it, from the summary that you've given me, it's a better story. Yeah, I feel that I'd agree.
Yeah, and Dave Filoni's own stance on this is that he has said that both these stories, the novel and the short, were worked from the same one-sentence pitch.
Okay.
And his heart is definitely in animation.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. That's a tough one. Because the thing is, though, that he could have... You have to wonder why he wouldn't just use an abridged version of that story as it is. Like, why he wouldn't recreate that story in a shortened format for this. Why he would create something that's so similar.
You don't have to have the queerness, just, have the recognisable characters. Have a recognisable setting.
Yeah, you're not obliged to put all of the, the queer subtext into there.
Why is it a brother and sister? Make it two sisters. Why is it a different Inquisitor? Make it the same one.
Yeah. I'm gonna and I want to say I'm fully on the side of anyone who feels like this is queer erasure, because I feel like there's a strong argument for it. Absolutely. And now the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm kind of feeling like I might be backpedaling on my malicious intent thing. Maybe not to do with I'm not saying that there's any homophobia involved here, but I just think that maybe they didn't think.
It's a short. Just add a character saying we want to kiss Ahsoka, then cut it out in other regions. Make it shorter.
The thing is, when did this short come out? What year did it come out? Oh, it was 2022. There's still time and scope to just just put just put the lesbians in. Just do it. Just like fucking maybe not in the same media. I don't know what Tales of the Jedi is doing right now, but like, there's all you got to do, put the lesbians somewhere. There we go.
If you enjoyed the show, please review us on Spotify. That's the thing you can do. Give us a like on YouTube. If you want to get in contact, feel free to message us on @Crashing The Starfighter on Instagram, or email us at crashingthestarfighter@gmail.com. We also have a TikTok. Emily, before we go, I have a question for you.
You do. Let's go.
Next episode, we're looking at comics, one of which is called Showdown on the Smuggler's Moon.
Ooh.
But do you, Emily, know which moon the Smuggler's Moon is?
Interesting. I'm gonna hold my any comments about that for next time.
I've been Sam.
I've been Emily.
See you next time. Bye.
See you next time. Ahsoka Tano needs more media. But has she been in a mainline Star Wars film yet?
Her voice has.
You're correct, yeah. Oh, she has. Oh, she's done everything.
Kanan's voice.
Oh my god. Yeah, there's so many more people in that scene. Not that I'm ever going to watch the Rise of Skywalker again, but if I did, there would be so many more people I'd recognise now.
You recognise their voice? I think Sam's done a bad impression of this before.
No, I will recognise them. Seriously, I'll be like, oh, that's the vibe. Plus, also, I always watch everything with subtitles on, so it'll tell me who it is anyway.
Mm-hmm. You'll be like, Ayla Secura, I know who that is now.
It's Paul McCartney. Ray, I want you to come to the Dark Temple.
Ray, you must get the Empire to meet their quotas.
Oh my god, Vidian, he's here! Our king, Vidian.
Meet the quotas. I want a scene where Thrawn meets Vidian and just like looks at him and goes, a feeble attempt to preserve his own life by extending it using cybernetics. You can tell that this man is desperate to do what it will to please his masters. That is his greatest weakness.
Why is Thrawn in his mind palace right now about this?
Thrawn's always in his mind palace. That's how he gets you.
That's true, actually. Thrawn is always in his... He has the ability to simultaneously be in his mind palace and also in the real world at the same time, and that's what gives him the edge.
He leaves for piss breaks and that's it.
He leaves for piss breaks. This is really funny because piss breaks, I think, are the only time that I can go into my mind palace. So I could beat Thrawn.
Grand Admiral Thrawn will remember this weakness, Emily.
Grand Admiral Thrawn will remember
Which Star Wars
this.
character do I find most attractive, and why is it probably Thrawn? I haven't got a weird Ben Solo crush.
I don't have a crush on him, I just like him, okay? Listen, I have a crush on Vidian. Ben Solo is he's just some guy. It's like the whole like Barbie thing, it's just like, Vidian is everything, and he's just Ben.